Hello, and welcome to the Green Grassroots Football with me, Andy Glover.
Me, Mark Grinter.
And I would just like to thank our sponsor, Rachel's Bookkeeping, for all of your bookkeeping needs. We're recording two on the same night, so again, Ben Murray is with us. Ben, welcome, Ben.
Hello again.
So this is his fourth one, so that's a good one. So the last episode, you just listened to it on player rotation, and obviously the two before, which we mentioned in the last pod. So, in this episode, we'll be discussing the rise of the Junior Premier League, the JPL, and the wider connotations around player development. As normal, I'll start with a quote. "The only competition that matters is the one that takes place within yourself." That was a gentleman called Pete Carroll, who coached Seattle Seahawks to their first ever Super Bowl win in 2014. As with the last pod, if you hear noises in the background, we're on the balcony at Stumbled Pavilion because it's very busy and this is all we can get. So there you go. So according to the JPL website, the Junior Premier League is now 11 years old, and from a small beginning, they're now England's only national league for youth players from under 7 to under 18, and are the largest league in the country with over 33,000 players. The JPL gained FA affiliation in April 2011 following a meeting at Wembley Stadium. The inaugural season began in September 10th, 2011 with 15 clubs. Interestingly, mainly around here: Bath City Academy, JSSI, Yate Town, Oxford City, Gloucester City, Hereford United, Worcester City, West Bromwich Albion Colts, Kidderminster Harriers, Bristol Inner City, North Somerset, Newport County, Burton Albion and Racing Club Warwick. If you counted, there's only 14 there, yet they say 15, but they only ever quote 14 for some reason. Initially denied permission to operate a girls' league, JPL was finally allowed to start a small girls' league with 7 under-16 teams after 8 seasons. This was later rebranded as JPL Warriors the following season. JPL has expanded international with leagues in the USA, Canada, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Oman and Jeddah, and plans to start leagues in Qatar, Kuwait and Riyadh soon. They have also announced launching Australia in October 24 and operate a basketball league in Doha, Qatar. Their head office is in Middlesbrough, but they are registered as a company in a building on an industrial estate behind the Dolman stand at Ashton Gate. So there you go. That's the JPL. So before we go into this, have either of you got any experience with the JPL at all?
Right. My son played in a JPL team for 18 months.
Okay. Taking aside, I know the history of his relationship with the management, but yes. The actual playing experience, what was that like? Excellent. In terms of it was opposition, where you went, that sort of thing?
The general experience, and I think the potential for how, if it's done properly and done correctly, is very good. It's a sort of an in-between step. They shouldn't ever advertise themselves as academies. It is a money-making scheme for a lot of these clubs. But the standard was good. The football was generally good. You generally played some good teams. And it was a step up from your standard grassroots. What you found, more also on the coaching, was with the players, that they wanted to be there for the football. There was less messing about. There was more concentration. There was more. It was football. They were there for football.
That was the driving.
Yeah, that was the driving force.
Yeah.
So there's that standard, and that certainly helped. We say a grassroots club where you've got some who are there for social and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I found that to be excellent, and the whole setup was okay. I mean, I could probably later on we'll go into what happened. It can then be used as a negative in the grassroots game.
As a recruiting tool.
Yeah. So we had issues with that as it went on. But yeah, certainly the first year and everything, we found it was okay. And was that sort of in-between step between grassroots and professional. So if you've got, I think, I said I've already known one JPL who we were set, but I think generally the people who are probably running it see it as that. It's then obviously their recruitment of the coaches at the team level might not be on the same page.
Well, I don't think they recruit it. The JPL is a business-run league. Teams then pay or whatever to enter. The actual teams themselves are completely separate entities.
If say, obviously around here, our local one is South Gloss.
South Gloss, North Somerset, Bristol's Inner City.
Well, the one that said for Cambridge is South Gloss, so I can only speak.
Well, you got Bristol Inner City.
Yeah, I can only speak for this because I know the gentleman who runs South Gloss, and I think his general philosophy and how he sees it is excellent, and he's a decent bloke. I think some of the coaches which he has to recruit, you have to recruit the coaches as well. I'm going with you recruiting the coaches because they're paid coaches as well at that level. They might not have that same philosophy. Now, whether that's my own personal experience, I don't know, but I've also heard other people have similar experiences. But there is a place for them. Whether it's I mean, Ben will know more than me, whether it's regulated as much as it should be, I don't know. That's up for debate.
I think if I talk about coaching first, so if I go pre-COVID, when I was a coach educator, a lot of courses that were delivered by the FA, you'd have a lot of coaches that were working their way through qualifications who would cut their teeth at grassroots, and then the next step for them, if they wanted to be a professional coach and work full-time in coaching, a JPL setup like North Somerset, South Gloucester is a really good, almost like it's marketed for players, it's that in-between academy. It's a great opportunity because ultimately there are fewer places to coach full-time at a professional level at a professional football club, because especially where we are, there aren't as many, say if you're in London or Birmingham, there aren't as many professional football clubs in that area. So you often found that there would be coaches there that would be on the path where maybe doing their level 2, working towards earn a B licence, and that were coaching in that environment. I had a real vested interest in getting better at coach, and because there were players there that, like you said, their focus was the game and wanted to play football, actually it was quite a positive coaching environment. Generally they're at good, like the facilities they use, like the one at Cambridge Town, you're on a 3G pitch, quite nice to coach on that, floodlit, it's well set up for you. And that pre-COVID, you also had a lot of coaching courses happening. And a lot of coaches coming through, so there was a real need and there was a real energy around coaching at that time. Whereas there are fewer coach educators, which is obviously why I don't work at FA anymore, is that the digital takeover of coaching courses, certainly the level 1 and the vast majority of the level 2.
The first aid.
Is now, level 2 is now a blended course. It's rebranded as the C licence, but you're still doing a lot of that online. There are fewer courses happening, fewer B licence courses. You won't get on an A licence course for love and money. Even if you're working in the National League, it's impossible to get on an A licence course. So I think now it's in my experience of some JPL coaching sessions that I've seen, is there is a different, maybe like you alluded to, philosophy. I don't think it's quite the same environment as it was maybe pre-COVID. But that's generally, I think, football in general. There's fewer coaches coming through. They've got that real desire.
And to be fair, when Brad was there was pre-COVID. And it was. Alex, I said, we've got a couple of girls in my team who are JPL.
Yeah. Same. We've got some who go to one at Cambridge.
Take away without saying which teams. I'll be honest. I don't think the standard's as good as what we provide here. I mean, they come back from it and it's, well, who's taught you that? And it's, okay.
Well, a lot of them are coaches at other grassroots teams at the same time, aren't they?
A lot of them are general grassroots coaches, which we could, again,
and all they really need is what, UEFA, their C licence? Most of them, they won't have their
Probably
B
I would have
licence.
thought
I doubt they've got their B licence.
I don't know if there's a minimum expectation to coach within one of the franchises. I'm not sure.
Bet they haven't got their B licence.
And I'll gladly tell the listeners my views are tainted, because with my son, when he was there, his coach asked him to go and play for his grassroots team. We said no, and then he virtually, from being a positive and everything review. Didn't play really hardly after until he was then frozen out because we refused to play for the coach's grassroots team.
Yeah, and that's.
And then
That taints it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Massively, that experience, which, like as you say, when you talk about the person who runs those centres or the people that run
he'd
those
probably
centres,
been devastated.
yeah, because wouldn't align to their personal philosophy.
Well, let me come in there then. There's three forums, I find. So there's Ref Chat forum, arguably 75% negative of the JPL experience. So they're not necessarily commenting on the JPL itself, but the experience, many commenting about the non-existent admin, higher pressure, and the overall concept actually. So that's the Ref Chat. That's their view. The one team in Bristol forum, fairly equally split. Some like it, others think it's no better standard. Plus, they recognise it's a money spinner. Many also comment on the longer travelling distances.
Oh, for fixtures.
As for the league itself, it is made up of teams, and they say so if you have a negative playing experience, like Brad did, that can be through the team and not necessarily the JPL itself.
Yeah, which I don't think. I think not the JPL, and even to be fair, the higher boss of Brad's JPL setup was actually.
Well, it wasn't JPL. It was an RTC, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
Brad was at JPL.
Yeah, but. The JPL is the league.
Yeah.
The team who entered was
the RTC.
Was an RTC. Yeah. So many teams who entered the JPL are regional. So RTCs, they're regional talent centres who, in effect, are businesses. So you pay to be part of it, and in return you get coached and play at hopefully a higher standard. Although this can't be guaranteed.
I think that people struggle with that distinction. You're right, because they see the language of they play for a JPL team. Actually, they're playing within a JPL league. But the organisation, the franchise that runs it, because often share badges and things, don't they? But that's sort of changed a little bit now. Is branded as
RTC,
a regional talent centre. So there's the one here. There's one in Clevedon, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, locally, there's North Somerset, there's South Gloucester, there's Bristol City Football Academy, Tyrone Mings, absolutely. Yeah.
He used to have one in Chippenham, didn't he?
And Western Mendip have got one now.
Have they really?
Yeah. Certainly on the girls' side on a Saturday.
That's what I think could be interesting, is that
the crossover grassroots.
Yeah, and girls football. So our girls in our age group that go to the one at Kensham Town, they play free fixtures within the infrequently, but they play at a Somerset FA organised tournament that they host. Because if you're in a village in the middle of Somerset, it's hard to play league football. Like, we're very fortunate being so close to Bristol, or in Bristol, to play in the Bristol Girls League. They travel to that, I don't know, maybe once a month I think the girls go to that.
Yeah, I think so.
And, I mean, they're far and away, when I talk to girls about it, they've won games, 7-0, 6-0, 8-0, because the standard's not there in the middle of that.
No, and it's
that region, and I suppose that's one of the things around those, one of the regional talent centres, is that we talk about development now. We go back to Pete Carroll, some of those NFL teams will use that phrase of iron sharpens iron, and in terms of learning, let's think about learning now. Streaming children suits a small percentage right at the top, suits your top 10%, and they will get better from playing with each other at a quicker rate. Whereas obviously mixing children and having a mixed ability team will benefit more children long term. The better we'll still get. The more competent children will still get and improve the game because they love it, but it will also bring up your players because you can't be what you can't see. So regardless of maybe the coaching that's happening at a centre, the players will get better because they're playing with 10 or other girls that are also really competent and love the game and want to be there to get better at football and don't want to be there to make daisy chains and do cartwheels and all those fun things that we do on a Saturday and a Sunday.
I mean, the drawback of RTCs, of course, is that you would generally pay a lot more than you'll pay
you do pay
how much? I wouldn't know at the moment.
I don't know what it is currently. I think when Brad was there, again, God, when was Brad there? 7, 8 years ago? 9 years ago.
Okay, so it's inflation.
It was, I think, we paid always £250 for the year for him to be there then. I mean, we'll go on to ETCs and stuff.
Well, that's next. So RTCs differ from emerging talent centres, which are ETCs, which the FA launched in 2022, established through the county FAs and professional clubs, primarily focusing on the development of girls' football. In the Southwest, this initiative included Bristol City Women, Cornwall FA, Devon FA, Dorset FA, Forest Green Rovers, Plymouth Argyle Community Trust, Somerset FA and Swindon Town Community Foundation, all who received central funding.
Yes.
Subsequently, Exeter City Community Trust and Herefordshire County FA have joined the programme.
Yeah.
So that's ETCs. The Premier League's committed to providing 1.75 million per year for 3 years to support the new network of girls ETCs. And that's sourced from the Premier League's 2022 domestic broadcast rights package. So I assume this is the last year of that. With the government mandating that an additional 100 million be invested over the following 4 years into various key areas across football, including the development of the women's and girls' games. Players are referred based on their eligibility to represent England. For the 2024-25 season, eligible players must be born in 2009, 10 or 11, corresponding to the under 10 to under 12 age groups. So, ETCs. Ben, if you can give us a quick précis on what ETCs are.
So, an emerging talent centre is one of the English FA's streams and approaches to developing future England players. And there are kind of 4 kind of core projects, if you like, that support that, that listeners, parents, other coaches might be aware of. Emerging talent centres, PGAs or professional game academies. There's a program called Discover My Talent. And these are all, the idea of these is to all lead into generating a bigger talent pool that might potentially, hence the reason why eligibility is a huge thing, that might then eventually play for the Lionesses at whatever age group, not necessarily playing for the first, the adult team, but the 17s, the 16s, the 23, whatever, and trying to identify more of that talent. Because there are lots of girls that maybe are playing the game maybe at a school and not at a grassroots club, who haven't been discovered yet, or haven't felt confident to play in a grassroots environment. Or there may be girls at a grassroots environment that are actually showing real strength and development recently that could go to, or be recommended to go to, an emerging talent centre and experiencing, and because it's FA accredited and they're licensed and they have to do certain things to maintain that licensing, the standard of coaching, environment, experience will be much higher than other environments that might challenge children in terms of their footballing ability. And then from an ETC, the idea is then, where we are, you might then go to Bristol City ETC. They only run it for certain age groups. It doesn't go down as much exactly in the 16. And then from there, again, if you're really showing talent and you love the game and everything's going well for you, you might then join the Pro Game Academy, the PGA, which is again at Bristol City, which is then that real kind of stepping stone to becoming a full-time professional within the women's game. So that's why they've been established, because there's an opportunity there to capture, because there's that big, since we won the Euros especially as well, and it coincided with that, to then try and capture as many girls as possible.
It's massive interest, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge, and we've seen the growth in our club on its own, and the quality of because girls are playing football much younger, they're playing football for longer, they're playing it in school more regularly now, is that actually there's a real opportunity to capture and progress and enhance their love of the game and their ability to play this game in a really well organised, secure, safe, fun environment that ultimately, if you're at an ETC, your name's on a database somewhere that this person has joined at under 9s or under 10s at the Somerset ETC, and showed this talent. As look at the 4-corner model and how they develop, they've got these characteristics. They might then move on to the under 11s, the under 12s, and so on and so forth.
Before I come to Mark, actually, you said like they were playing in school. I spoke about my new team who all came along in July and August.
Oh yeah,
almost all of them had been playing in school.
Yeah.
So they weren't like new.
No,
but they'd all been playing
for lots
in
of
school,
especially in the girls' game, the women's game. That's an environment where some children will feel far more comfortable and competent to play the game because it's a safe environment for them, and that's where we want to kind of make sure that transition to maybe recommending them to come to a grassroots club like Coming Here or then go on to an emerging talent centre is making sure the transition is well supported and they're guided through that, because that social aspect, as we all know, is really, really important for girls, and their like comfortability playing the game and in an environment is making sure that that's focused on. So the emerging talent centres are great, generally speaking, at supporting those transitions, bringing girls in, making them feel welcome to a new age group, introducing players, but that kind of thing, having consistency in terms of coaches, is generally the kind of the philosophy, the approach of them.
I've got Mark here now because am I right in saying Imi's at an ETC?
She's not an ETC. She's at the. It's not an ETC because she's at Gloucestershire, which is run.
So they haven't got a licence now.
Yeah, so they do it differently. But she's at what the Gloucestershire FA equivalent of an ETC is, but it's not an ETC officially.
Yeah.
For however, I don't know. Obviously, the politics behind why they're not.
No, I don't know either.
Oh yes, sorry, you're like the only one not on this list.
Yeah.
Previously they have.
They have previously, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, because Imi is there,
Imi's at
and
Gloucestershire.
Brad was at an RTC.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it was
chat about like the
Yeah,
differences.
noted any.
So I've got 4 players in my team who are at Somerset ETC.
Yeah. So down the street.
Yeah, down the street, and Imi is at Gloucestershire. The only difference from what I can see is the Gloucestershire one. They literally have only play one game a season against Hereford.
I haven't played many fixtures. Right.
So they don't play fixtures pretty much.
But the
actual coaching, the standards are excellent. They have the same coaches who are obviously. I think that the basis is exactly the same as Somerset, from what I can gather.
Yeah, and they're used to running one, so they probably just mirror
they just
that
don't
process.
play games for whatever. They've gone down. Now you'd have to obviously speak to the Gloucestershire
FA
why they've gone down that route. I think they do struggle with coaches. Certainly, goalkeeper coaches they seem to have struggled with. I mean, bizarrely, when they did play Hereford, Imi went in goal, which was quite an experience for them. But they played. But she's been there 2 years now, and there's certainly less pressure than I think they find at the Somerset girls.
Okay.
They've basically said to us with Imi, she'll be here till we either leave or she gets too old at under 16s.
Yeah, she can come.
So there's no, we have to trial every year or anything like that.
Yeah.
She's there, they're happy, her attitude's good, her attendance is good, her abilities at a good standard. So there's no, everything, she ticks all their little boxes. Whereas at the Somerset ones, they have to virtually trial it every year, otherwise they get dropped. And stuff like that. There seems to be a little bit more pressure there with the ETCs, but then I speak to because I've got the 4 girls there. I speak to the lady who runs it quite a lot at Somerset.
Yeah, Rachel,
and who helps? Yeah, and good relation, and her philosophy and the amount of care she's got for her girls is exceptional, absolutely exceptional. And she's out there well-being, how, like you said, their community and everything is phenomenal. But then I see the same with Sky at Gloucestershire, and their roles are very, very similar. And they look after the girls. They're really good at looking after the girls. So yeah, Imi's at Gloucestershire. The only difference from what I can see is they don't seem to play as many games. Yeah. Not quite sure. As I said, there must be.
Well, there's an ETC programme of fixtures that they'll play against other emerging talent centres in their locality. which is hence the reason probably why they're playing fewer games.
Yeah.
Because they're not within that kind of.
All this already taken.
So they said there could be why Gloucester's so you'd have to speak to them to say why they've not,
We'll find out next
which
week.
is bizarre why they're not in it.
Yeah.
Because the setup and everything they've got
Yeah,
at Almondsbury is
3G pitch there. It's
it's exactly the same as Street.
yeah.
There's no difference in it at all. So never quite worked, but obviously.
So how does that though compare to Imi's experiences compared to Bradley's?
Said,
ETC to RTC.
They said the only difference with the ETCs is that, as far as I'm aware, and I'm 99% sure, none of the coaches are associated with the grassroots club. I could be wrong on that, but and we've certainly never had any pressure to say,
Come and join here.
yeah, which we got with Bradley. Now that was our own personal thing. They just go train. What I love with Imi being there, she plays with girls from Portishead, she plays with girls from Downend, and it's the top. So again, it's widened her social base. It's why when we go and play, she knows, oh, there's so and so, and there's so and so. So her little buzz and her little community and the people that she knows, her social is widened, and we've thoroughly enjoyed that. The coaching's of a. I'll be honest, I go there and I probably nick. I'll do that on a Thursday then. Thank you. I'll have that. But, and because these are slightly more developed coaches and stuff.
Compared to the RTC, how would you compare it? Similar, better.
It is better.
It's better. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
without a doubt.
The counties employed. You would argue certainly from the one you were at.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of them, but the one you were at.
I would recommend, if anybody had a choice between going to an RTC and an ETC and they were given both options, I would go with the ETC. The only thing I would say with the ETC is, again, the ETC, that they charge.
Yeah.
Which, bizarrely, for an emerging talent centre, and the FA school and those Somerset, they charge. I don't get that because that could potentially put people off who haven't got that financial resource.
There are bursaries available. So if there were to be somebody that had trialled and was able to met their entry criteria for a particular age group, and that was a barrier, because it's run by the FA, there is a hardship fund that, so my new role, I would be able to support somebody, a player, a family, because ultimately, and we've talked about this before, football is largely now becoming a middle class sport. And those emerging talent centres, even from here, it's a Somerset one and we're in Somerset.
It's over an hour, isn't it?
To get to Street, it's a faff, isn't it? It's not
on a Wednesday
quick,
evening.
It's not quick roads.
No.
It's not like you're going to on a dual carriageway.
You're a one-car family.
Exactly.
Working till 5:30.
Exactly.
It was one of the things that we put off Imi going there was, well, how are we going to be able to do it?
So that's where there are things like that can be applied for, but you might not know that before you get there. So
that was the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, and also if Alex Scott was talking about this a few months ago, and she had an article on the BBC News website that the only reason why she was able to attend training at Arsenal was because was it a youth worker or a social? I forget. It might be a youth worker was able. They had funding. They were able to. They drove her there because her mum didn't drive. Single parent family. You couldn't get a bus. And that's still, sadly, in an urban area like London, a lot of the emerging talent centres are associated to, like Swindon and Exeter and Plymouth, to community trusts, like the charitable arms of each of these professional clubs. And they use their base, Arsenal and St Albans, Fulham's, Chelsea's and like Surrey. They're not in inner city areas, so they're trying to make sure that there's equity of access to all girls that are showing talent. So that's not a barrier.
Okay, for the last 10 minutes, I want to actually move away from ETCs and RTCs, actually. A slightly different direction. A player called Rob Jones. For those of you who may have heard of him, may not have heard of him. So, and this might not be entirely accurate. I remember reading it, but at the age of 15, Rob Jones was playing Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, as well as both school and representative matches, along with the requisite training. It was worked out that he had played 232 matches in one specific season. He was signed for Crewe and then Liverpool, where he marked Ryan Giggs out of the game on his debut, made an England debut, and for some was the long-term right back for England a year before the emergence of Gary Neville. But injuries took him out of the team, and he never fully recovered to get a long spell back in the team. He made 243 appearances for Liverpool in his 8 years at Anfield, a figure that would have been much higher had it not been for the string of serious injuries culminating in the patella tendonitis that forced his retirement at just 27.
Yeah.
So how much football is too much for players, and are grassroots plus RTCs, ETCs going to potentially cause this? Because, we're looking at all these, there's RTCs, there's ETCs, and yet you look at the experience of someone like Rob Jones, and it's just history could easily repeat itself for a number of our girls or boys.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It was one of the things I wanted when we sort of discussed it. I thought that's a good one. I want to bring this up because I remember reading that years ago about Rob Jones. I remember watching him play that first season, thinking, "Here's the future England right back," and he was brilliant for both Liverpool and England. And then suddenly he disappeared.
And again, if you look at girls, and there's going to be more science and education on it, they are picking up injuries a lot more. I mean, I'll go with my current team at the moment. I've got 4 injuries at the moment, and most
under 11s.
Yeah, it's 4. Bizarrely, most of them are broken wrists. I think I've got 3 broken. But I have got a couple throughout the season. I've had muscle injuries where they're growing as well, and so again at this sort of age where they're growing and their bones are weaker. Well, when they get taller and stuff like that, so that's causing more and more injuries. But as I said, when they get to, say, secondary school, then the chances of ACLs and more pulled muscles and stuff like that heightens. So you have to get that balance right. I said, my age group, because at the moment where they're going in between primary and secondary, we are getting a few muscle injuries. We said the broken bones are sort of coming into place. In fact, one was at an ETC last night. She broke a thumb at training. And I said so.
But I'm saying, for Rob Jones, he retired at 27. He made his, this is at 15. He played these 230 games. How many times a week did your girls train for you for 5?
We train twice a week.
And you play...
So I'll go with, say, Imi at the moment. Imi trains at Gloucestershire on a Monday. She does a 1-to-1 on a Tuesday. Trains on a Thursday. Trains on a Saturday. Plays on a Sunday. And that's excluding if she does anything then for school or anything like that.
Swimming.
And she swims 4 times a week. So there's 9 high physical activities that she does every
she does a lot.
Week in, week out. And most of our girls then who are training with us, most of the girls include that, and the ones at the ETCs generally do 1-to-1s as well.
Really?
So they are generally, most of them, and there's even a couple that train with boys, are training 4 to 5 times a week.
Wow. This is the age where they're bounceable, they recover quickly. It's, as I said, Rob Jones didn't retire until he was 27, but they all recognise it was the fact that he was as a young child or a child growing up, that development age, playing Saturday, Sunday, morning, afternoon, overtraining. Is this a problem that we are creating for ourselves? And should it be that once we get a girl or a boy into an ETC or even an RTC, we say, actually, we think you should stop playing for the grassroots team? Or we say, actually, don't play for your RTC, play for your grassroots. As in, don't force the choice on them, but should we actually be thinking medically about their long-term well-being?
So that underpinning, one of the underpinning philosophies, if you like, of an emerging talent centre, especially as we talk about just about the girls' game, is that they don't want girls to be taken away from playing grassroots football. So it's not about replacing that, and they would never want it to replace that, because there's a realisation of the importance of girls playing in an environment that they're really, really comfortable in. I think.
But that's the psychological friendship side of it.
Yeah.
Physiological side.
You could argue that there's extra depending on what your grassroots club does in terms of training. Certainly, as a parent, you need to be aware of the mileage that your child is going through and be really, really aware of that and have a good level of education. So the emerging talent centres are really good at preventative S&C work, and we steal a lot of the stuff in terms of what we do at the beginning of our sessions, especially ACL preventative stuff, because that's a big issue in the women and the girls game. But I think there's probably a bit of an education piece there in terms of families to make sure you can recognise the signs of if somebody is hitting the red zone, if you like, to use that analogy, and could be prone to an injury, or is becoming reluctant to play because they're just doing it all the time.
They talk about poor execution of play, inability to achieve training goals, lack of motivation, tiring easily, short tempers, inability to cooperate with teammates is clear indicators of it's starting to happen. Yeah. Or it could just simply lead to a falling out of love with the game.
Which is so common. Which is so common with overexposure to the game and not having that broad experience of other activities and other sports, and encouraging them to do. Just narrowing down to football too early can be really, really detrimental to like a young person's general development if they're only playing the one sport. When I was growing up, it wasn't a year-round game. You stopped.
Yes.
And you played cricket, or you played whatever you did, or half your winter was playing rugby or whatever. It was more of a setup to that. Whereas now football is expected now, but expected that really, we introduced a second training session. It's gone down really, really well. The girls have really, really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't want to take it away now. I wouldn't want to stop doing it now because we get really good numbers there every week, and they love it, especially when we're here in the summer.
It's lovely.
It's really nice.
Like I said, we do the two, and it goes down well. I agree with what said. With any of your players, it is a pain that she's chose swimming. To get a second sport and get something different in is.
Well, that's not. It's low impact.
Yeah.
Which, from a football perspective,
it's
really good.
It's perfect for
fitness is huge.
I just don't like it. But I mean, she loves it.
It's not a spectator sport, is it?
No. And I said we keep, and I think again, we could go on for hours. I think about this. The benefits of them being active, being outside, being off screens, away from social media at that age. And all this sort of benefits, if you're keeping them away from that to a certain degree, and certainly the social media side and everything like that, by them being generally.
No, I totally agree with that. But is this where these people should not be having Saturday, Sunday football, but instead say, okay, I'm into an ETC, I'm going to do the ETC now, and I'm going to do the swimming, and I'm going to do a yoga. So you're not pounding the knee. It's about varying the balance. You
have to have a balance.
It's that sort of thing.
And it's.
Are we in danger of going, you're a good footballer, so you're going to play for the school, you're going to play for a Saturday team, you're going to play for a Sunday team. There's a Sunday afternoon, a morning team, and a Sunday afternoon team.
Unfortunately, I think that could be down to them parents. And if they are living their life through their child.
Which a lot do, as we know.
And then they go, right, we'll go, whoever, the girl or the daughter or their son, they want to make it as a professional. And the only way they see is professional is like, we're going to train 6 nights a week, we're going to play 3 times a week, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and they put the pressure on that child.
Because it won't happen now, as with Rob Jones, it wasn't until he was 27.
No, and it could happen at any. I mean, again, going away from football and what you do as a parent, and this is away from football. I've got a gentleman who I work with played cricket. He played for Gloucestershire, England under 19s, and their life and their whole commitment was
built around that
to his cricket career. and he was doing well. He was in the Gloucestershire, obviously playing for Gloucestershire, and was doing well. Went in, he was a fast bowler, went in one day, knee just ruptured, gone. He was finished. He now works in the same office I do, bless him. And it can happen like that. You've got to get that balance right. Now, Ian's family, and he wouldn't change a thing. He was just unfortunate with these injuries and stuff like that. But as parents with grassroots and going through, it will happen. You know, there was a podcast I heard with Gary Lineker. Generally, most children, if they are going to get into that top 0.002% that make it as professionals, will probably get that in their own natural ability. There's too many parents that will say, well, if you carry on like that, you're not going to make it. Probably aren't going to make it any case. If they're putting pressure on them to do this, it won't work any case. You've got, like I said, with the ETCs and stuff like that they are very good. The ETCs don't play games on a weekend.
No, deliberately, yeah.
Deliberately, so it stays away from grassroots football. They only play half-term holidays, generally, or school holidays, midweek, and in a midweek game. That's probably one of the main differences for injuries, and what I think the FA is learning between ETCs and RTCs, because RTCs in the JPL is Saturday. So if you're at a JPL or RTC that's playing in the JPL, you are playing Saturday, Sunday.
You play for your grassroots
blah,
team.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
ETCs will not play. We'd organised a game against Exeter for our lot. Well, the coach was a bit, bless him. But as soon as he realised the fixture date that we'd arranged was a Saturday, he said, "No, can't do it.
Can't do it, yeah.
Cannot do it. We'll not do it." And said, if you want to play, and we're trying to organise something midweek in the half term. We played Swindon. We played them Tuesday.
Yeah.
So ETCs and stuff like that will not play on a Saturday and Sunday. And I think that's a realisation potentially from the FA and stuff like that. That A, they don't want to take it away from the grassroots team with the friendship and the social skill, and also playing Saturday and Sunday is probably not overly beneficial on a regular basis. There is a slight difference between training and playing matches.
Yeah.
And ETCs, well, I said I presume Ben on them more than I do, but certainly around here, they just won't do it on a Saturday and Sunday. They won't.
Okay. I think we're ready to wrap up here on this. Ben, do you have any final thoughts on the JPL, the RTCs, ETCs, or just general overuse? It all comes together with.
I think that understanding like your child and their body and how they're developing is really, really important. And there's like a risk across the piece of like them getting bored, them getting frustrated, them getting angry if they're just doing that one activity all the time. And then obviously then the risk of overuse injuries can progress, because ultimately it's a high impact sport, especially on your lower body, your hips, your knees, your ankles. And a young person developing, we need to protect their body as they grow and as they develop. So managing that time is really, really important. And ultimately that's why there's guidelines on how many minutes of football you can play in a day. But they're guidelines, so some people will probably push those to the limits and will do more than that. But I think in the women's game and the girls' game, it's much better prepared for that in terms of emerging talent centres, professional game academies. There's a better environment and understanding of that than perhaps historically in the boys' game, where there is almost higher stakes at a younger age, which is quite sad, really, I think.
Thank you. Mark, anything you want to?
I think that's about it, really.
Yeah. And I think that's it for me. So on that note, Ben, thank you very much.
No problem.
Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And listeners, thank you for joining us. And listen out for the next one. Thank you. If you like this podcast, then please email us your questions, comments, random thoughts, anything you want to share with us at greengrassroots@gmail.com. You can contact Mark and Andy through X at Fry Club JFC, on Facebook via Fry Club Junior FC, and the Fry Club website is www.fryclubjfc.co.uk. You could also type out a fantastic review on Apple Podcasts or give us 5 stars on Spotify. You've been listening to a We Haven't Got a Clue What We're Doing production, produced and edited by Andy Glover.